Thanks, Ian. Yes, good evening, everybody. Good to have you on this evening. What we're going to have a look at tonight is an overview of club registration and RFU registration, and specifically linking that to those clubs promoted, congratulations, and those relegated, commiserations. And then we'll go through some support, resource, and some top tips as well, potentially as well, if that's suitable for what people are after for this evening. So you do have the option there to go into the question and answer function as well. So you can use that at your wish. And we will stop and we'll have breakpoints throughout the 25-ish minutes that we've got left to take questions as well. So a reminder to people of what the pyramids look like, if we can call them that, is you may be familiar with these assets, as we call them, these digital assets, if you were around last season during the launch. Any player in the men's game that is playing level 8 or above requires what's called RFU registration. Anyone playing at level 9 and below, so counties 3 and below, only requires club registration, but of course, players with RFU registration can still play at those levels. And for the women, it's pretty similar. So level 4 and above requires RFU registration, and level 5 and below requires club registration. And what this specifically will mean, we'll start with those who were sadly relegated this season. You will not need to change. So the way that the system is designed and built, for those who are familiar with club registration, it is a more flexible type of registration, recognizing the levels of the game when it's in play, pardon the pun, and allows players to play for up to two, to be registered for and play for up to two clubs at any one time, and players can turn those over with the flexibility that they would potentially need throughout that season. For those who are coming from level 8 in the men's game and level 4 respectively in the women's game down into the levels below, you will not need to do anything with your players' registrations. What will happen in the background from the 1st of July, so it'll be around about the 1st of July, or even on the 1st of July, it will convert all of the players from RFU registration to club registration. So as volunteers, you'll not need to take that task on. We will do that for you in the background. And then again, a recognition there of the fact that players with club registration can play for and be registered for up to two clubs at any one time at those respective levels. I will pause straight away there for any questions, if there are any in the chats or on the Q&A, or if anybody's got any. If not,
Can I just ask something? Can you hear me okay?
yeah, I can. Who's that?
Simon Thompson.
Hi, Simon.
Hi. So it's slightly this may be slightly left field, but if we have an example, and so with my son's at university, yeah, and he certainly was originally he's changed his registration anyway, but the point is he originally registered at Kings Norton, and then at university he was actually playing for a higher level club who were level 8. Not level 8. So is that above the level that we're talking about here? And does that
Yeah.
matter?
So it depends. Which university is it, Simon?
Or is it Northampton? But he was playing. He was playing for yeah. So but yeah. So he was but he was playing for a team over there as well. But I'm just wondering whether it impacts them if the registrations change to a club registration, because of course your secondary registration is likely to be club registered because you're allowed to as a student. Yeah.
Yeah. I've got the question. So the university registration has no impact on your typical, dare I say, club registrations.
Yeah.
So it's completely built and designed within, or designed and built within the system, that whatever a player does for a university side playing university rugby, and I'll come back and qualify that, it has no bearing on what they do with their more typical Saturday or Sunday
Yeah, I understand that.
registrations.
So the university one understood, yes. But what happens, because also they're encouraged if to participate in a local club as well, yeah? So
Yeah,
if you
so
do that, then you need to be club registered, but then you also may be RFU registered at your home club. Does any of
yeah.
this correction to registration affect that?
No, there's two things on that. So just to qualify my state, I think it's 9 universities And I'll certainly have a look at the fixtures when they get done over the next week or two to check, obviously. I think it's 9 universities that play university rugby, obviously, and also play RFU League rugby. So if your son or any other player for that matter is playing at a university side that is playing RFU League rugby, then they are treated essentially as a more bona fide club. So that would impact upon it. If you've so the example I always use, just because it's an easy one, Loughborough students. If your son or anybody else was playing for their first team, which is obviously quite a high level, then they wouldn't be able to go and play for another club apart from a student pass, which I'll come on to in a second.
Yes.
If they were just at Loughborough and they were playing university only rugby, so they weren't playing for that men's first team, or if their second team plays in the RFU leagues, which I don't think it does, then that has no impact again. So they could play for Kingston RFC and then go and play for Loughborough 1s, 2s, or whatever it might be in university rugby. The services pass, which we're not covering tonight, but I'm happy to cover. For those who are or indeed aren't familiar with it, we have something called services and student pass, and what people sometimes interpret it as mistakenly, but understandably so. People understand that, all right, but it's a pass to play rugby at university, or it's a pass to play rugby in the services. It's actually not. So what it allows you to do is, and the example I give, I'm based up in Newcastle, and I always think of one of the furthest away universities I can. So it's Exeter. So let's say, for example, you've got somebody who lives up in Newcastle, and let's say that they're registered to play for Nova Castrians, men's level 7 up here, so counties 1. They go to university in Leicester. It's unlikely that they're going to travel home to get their rugby fix on a weekend. They could go and play university rugby outside of the RFU leagues for University of Exeter with any type of. It doesn't. They're going to have no impact upon it. But that player would then be eligible for what's called a student pass, and they would be able to. And I'll get Ian to put the. There you go. He's done it already. Thanks, Ian. That would allow the player to get a second RFU registration to be able to play both club rugby when that student was staying down at Exeter on a weekend, but then also play for their home club, for want of a better phrase, when they come home.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Yeah,
no worries. Thank you. But yeah, do have a look at those links, because that service pass, services pass and student pass, we have seen a relative uplift in the uptake of those, because they weren't really kind of well known before. We're still talking only like in the hundreds, but they are certainly being more widely known. And information to clubs as well, something that people haven't maybe always understood. It's all services and student passes are also available after any transfer deadline, so that can come in handy for players and for clubs who are trying to get teams out. Ian Mitchell.
Yes. I am out.
Yeah.
Our players that have RFU registered this season staying RFU registered, or have we got to re-register them again this season?
So are you talking about promoted and relegated, or just per se?
No, just per se, because like last year we had to register them to play level 8, level 9, or level 8 and above. Are they staying registered as RFU registered, or do they default back to club register? And
no. Great segue, which is what we're going to go on to next. So anybody who has an active registration on or before the 22nd of June this year, because we'll essentially be able to cut off on the 22nd of June, they will have their registration will change to renewal required, and with the exception of those who have been relegated, then the players, whatever registration type the player had before, will be how they will renew it next time. So they're going to go in and do a really short renewal process, which I'm just about to show you. So if they were RFU registered last time, then they'll do the renewal process and they'll be RFU registered this time. If they were club registered last time and they do the renewal process, they'll be club registered this time. The exception will be where those players who are sadly been relegated will have their registration type converted to club registration. But I'll show you that now, Ian. So this is the process that players will go through to renew their registration.
This video will show previously registered players how to renew their registration at their club. If you've played club rugby in England before, you are likely to already have a GMS account. To renew your registration, log into your GMS account. Enter your registered email address and password. If you don't know your password, click Forgot Password. If you do not know your registered email address, contact your club registrar. They can look it up in GMS and provide it to you. Once you are logged into GMS, click the profile icon in the top right corner and select your personal dashboard. Make sure the club you want to renew your registration for is displayed below your name. Next, click the Renew Player Registration Adult button to renew your registration. Review the details of your club registration form, add in any medical details and emergency contacts if needed, and decide whether you would like to consent to the waivers. Click Save or Submit. Your registration is now automatically approved and renewed for the season. If you are a contracted player, you'll be required to log in again and approve your contract. You may also need to log in and add attachments, such as a copy of your passport, visa, or student and service pass if applicable.
So that's Ian and himself talking around the renewal process there. And obviously that's extended out in terms of just explaining the steps. But if a player needs to go in and just simply renew their registration and they don't want to change their details, or they don't need to, they'll just click renew, scroll down to the bottom of the form and click submit, and then that is them done. They will not need any further approval from any club registrar, which we've covered in previous webinars. With the logic being there, if a registrar has already approved a player in the past, then why would we want them doing that extra task again? So trying to reduce that kind of admin load. The difference we're looking at now, and congratulations to those teams who have been promoted. For those who have been promoted from Counties 3 into Counties 2 for men, and from National Challenge 2, excuse me, into National Challenge 1 for women, you will need to ensure that the players that you want to be will need RFU registration. And there's a very good reason why these don't get turned automatically, because if we've got some clubs, there may be some players who don't want to become RFU registered because they want that flexibility to play across more junior sides across the area, and indeed the club would be in control of that. So if you wanted to uplift an RFU registration for just a first team squad, if I can put it that way, then you can do that. If you want to do all of them, then that's fine. You just need to be mindful then that if you've got any relationships with any nearby clubs, the players who did have the club registration, the more flexible club registration type for the game, would then, technically speaking, not be able to go and play for other sides as well. But I'll just cover now with some screenshots in terms of what that will look like. So if you're being promoted from level 9 into level 8 for men, and from level 5 into level 4 for women, this is the type of thing that you will be presented with when applying for RFU registration for your players.
This video shows club registrars how to uplift their players for RFU registration. This applies to teams playing in men's level 1 to 8 and women's level 1 to 4. Log in and click the 9-grid icon in the top left-hand corner. Select Player Management. Click Registration.
Excuse me.
An overview from the side menu. Next, click Approved Registrations beneath Club Registered. This will show all players that have their club registration approved but are not RFU registered. To find a player, scroll through or search for them using the filters. Select the player and click Apply for RFU registration. Complete the form when the player's profile appears on the right-hand side. Some fields will be pre-populated with information the player has provided. Check the information is correct and add any missing information. The details required will vary depending on the level of the applicant club. Under Player Contract Information and Agent Declaration, tick whether the player is amateur or contracted. If the player is contracted, input the relevant contract details. If an agent was involved with the contract, declare this by ticking the box and typing the agent's name. All RFU licensed agents' details will appear once you begin typing. If the agent does not appear, please contact your RFU registrar. Next, make sure the player has uploaded all required documents. If you're not sure what is required, visit help.rfu.com for more guidance. Club registrars can upload any missing documentation required to prove an individual's eligibility. To do this, save your progress and click on the player's RFU ID. Under Attachments, click New and upload the relevant file. You can also request that the player do this themselves. Finally, click Submit. This player's RFU registration will enter the relevant approval process. If the club needs the player to play within 7 days, see the How to Expedite a Player's Registration video.
Thanks again. Just to explain that is the extended process there with regards to RFU registration. So for the vast majority of our players, we will be looking at the limited details there around country of birth. It's only when you get into your semi-professional and indeed contracted and professional players where you do all of those extended processes. So that's absolutely, definitely not for the vast majority of our players. Ian referenced there the ability to what we call expedite players. So for if you're only familiar with the club registration process, because that might be the levels that your club played at this season, you wouldn't have been familiar or likely with the expedited process, as you wouldn't have needed it for that registration type. Expedited is about, so within regulation, any club or any player moving clubs in particular, particularly on transfers, then they will need to undertake what's called a 7-day waiting period, which is within regulation. Should you want to make your player available more quickly, then you would follow the expedited process, which is explained here.
This video will show clubs how to track the status of RFU registration applications on the Player Registration Overview dashboard in Player Management. RFU registrations require approval from an agent if they are involved. If no agent is involved, the player will approve. Once contracted players approve the contract information, RFU registrars review the registration. Clubs can apply for submitted RFU registrations to be expedited if they require the player to be registered in a period of less than 7 days. To do this, select the player from the Registration Overview dashboard and make the request. Input your card details in the payment portal. Once you have paid to expedite the RFU registration, this will be reviewed by an RFU registrar. The player will remain in the approval process flow on your Registration Overview dashboard, and the request will be prioritised by an RFU registrar.
So that's the expedited process there around getting players to be available to play ahead of the 7-day wait period. One of the final things I'm going to cover there. Before I do, actually, Simon's got a question. Thanks for putting that in the question, the Q&A function, which not everybody would see. This is what we normally use when we have a lot more people on the webinar. So Simon's asking, what registration do second or third teams do if they have a first or second team at a higher level? So if their first team, if they're second or third team, it depends on where they play, Simon. So if you've got a second or a third team that plays in the likes of merit leagues, merit tables, friendlies, maybe county cups, those things, formats of rugby like that, then they will require club registration only. If you've got a second or in third team, and this is different in other areas of the country, if you've got a second or third team that play in any of the RFU leagues, level 4 and above in the women's game, or level 8 and above in the men's game, then for them to be able to play for that side, they'd also need RFU registration as well. One thing I want to have a look at here is just going to show you a player contract approval. So again, this is a real small minority of players when we look in the whole scheme of things about all of our registered players and numbers that we have, but it is an important step nonetheless to help players become eligible to play. If you do have players who are contracted, then they will get a notification, and you'll see that appear bottom right there now, to approve their contract. So again, and I'm going to sound like I'm repeating myself, but I am. This is only for those players who are playing between levels 1 to 4 in the men's game and level 1 in the women's game, and also any other contracted players. So if you happen to be within a regional 1 level 5 club or a regional 2 level 6 club where you have contracted players, they too will also get a notification where they need to approve their contract, and they'll see that on their dashboard there, bottom right. They'll be able to open up their registration, top right, and then what they'll need to do is then approve that contract information. So they'll expand the options within the form top right. They'll check the details, I'm sure, and then they'll click approve top right. And then the players will then see on their dashboard is that notification or that task awaiting the players has now been removed. Next thing we're going to show you is from a registrar perspective. So particularly for those registrars, if you are on the call, if you are involved at those levels, and again, that's levels 1 to 4 in the men's game and level 1 in the women's game, you'll go onto your player dashboard, and this is what you will see once the players approve their contract, and then the registration sits with an RFU registrar. So that's a member of staff based in Twickenham that will process that registration. And again, that is for contracted players only. You will see them, first of all, of course, appear on a pending registration. And then ultimately what you will see once the approval has been given by an RFU registrar is they will become into an approved player, and they'll have an effective from date, which will then be when they're eligible to play from. Ian, that's all the processes I had. Do you want to take us through some support and resource?
Yeah, fantastic.
Thank you.
So, as usual, we have plenty of support and resource to help you guys. So we'll have a key communications that will be going out to the game, both from a administrator point of view and also to help support with getting players to renew their registration. There'll be comms going directly to players. We've been able to increase the amount of players that we can get to, and we're up to 87% now, which is a fantastic improvement on last year. So hopefully that will help you guys as volunteers in clubs alongside your own messaging. Then we have Community Rugby Help, which hopefully most of you know about now. If you don't, go and check it out. It's help.rfu.com. Within here is lots of articles to support you around the different processes. And some of the videos that you've just seen this evening, they're all embedded into relevant articles around those different processes within Community Rugby Help. Community Rugby Help is also the place where if you're having any technical issues or you're struggling with something, you can submit a help request. And as we go through into our peak period of the season, which is from now onwards, we'll be upscaling the level of support on the service desk as per previous seasons that we've done. You'll have seen the videos that we've seen. Our webinars are housed on something called on our YouTube channel called Community Rugby Digital. So any webinars that we've delivered around adult player registration are housed in one playlist. And then there are some how-to guides around the adult player registration processes. And there's a playlist for that as well. So you can worth checking them out. Really good resource to ping around to people if you need to, and also a good resource to share with players where required as well. We also have our GMS support trainer team. There's a network of 7 people across the country who deliver that a bit bespoke content to individuals in the game that need that bit more extra support, that may be struggling with having looked at the webinar resource, etc., and just need that extra bit of guidance. So an excellent team of people who are casual workforce but are heavily involved within clubs and within GMS as well. And finally, we have our adult player registration webinar program. This is where we're at now tonight. We've got a couple of extra sessions towards the end of the month, focusing around players and admins. They are a repeat of the ones that we did at the start of the month. And then tonight, Matt and I are delivering in about half an hour for new volunteers. So lots of support, and these are all recorded and all available on Community Rugby Digital.
Thanks, Ian. I can see Isabel's got a question. We've got a couple of minutes left, which we can take. Just to say that before we take Isabel's question, Ian's absolutely bang on, right and on the money as always. If you want that, if you haven't yet been able to either attend or view the 2 webinars we've already run, definitely do take a look at those in the YouTube playlist, or get yourself booked on, because they're not until the 23rd or 25th. So, Isabel, over to you.
Hi, we've got 2 teams. We've got women's teams. We've got one playing NC1, so we need RFU registration, and one that will need club registration. Whilst we can identify a core number of players that will sit firmly in our ones, there are a few that will, on times and if there's injuries, play for the 1s and the 2s. Is it best to identify those players and register them RFU level now? Because if an injury is picked up, we're probably going to be in that 7-day window. And if so, if they're registered at RFU level, does that then negate them being able to play at the lower level?
Yeah, it's great questions as well. So first of all, just to be clear, the 7-day wait period is only if they are moving clubs. So if you're talking about essentially selection internally, then the 7-day wait period doesn't apply. It's 24 hours. So if, for example, you had a player that went down on a Thursday night in a training session, and you wanted them to play on Sunday, then providing that you get that player registered before midday on a Friday, then they are able to be able to play. So it's the 7-day period only applies when a player is moving clubs. You can, as a club, I mean, at the end of the day, it is entirely up to clubs how they wish to do this. One thing which can be beneficial is to do it when you need to, so you can have that relationship with other clubs, which we know a lot of people are starting to take advantage of with the new registration type of club registration. But you can move that up and down within your club as many times as you like over the course of a season, up until the transfer deadline. So once the transfer deadline comes for women, I'd need to check when it is for next season, but I think it was the 28th of February off the top of my head this season. Then changing from RFU registration to club registration is no longer permitted. So if it's internal, they're available to play the next day, and you can do it however you think best fits the circumstances at your club.
Thank you. Just
No worries.
quickly, the other part you might have missed was if they have RFU registration and they just wanted to play at a club level game, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Can they still play for that?
They can do, provided it's at the same club. So there's, if it's at the same club, they can, absolutely. So if you had let's say if you had a first team at Championship 2 in the women's game, so level 3, and they had RFU registration, and your second team was playing National Challenge 2, absolutely they can play for that second team at National Challenge 2. But you sound right on the ball, so I'm sure you'll also be aware of the regulation around the 50% of games for female players. But registration type, absolutely, within the club, they can go up and down the teams.
Thank you.
No worries. Thanks, Isabel. I hope you found it all useful this evening. Do have a look at the webinars that I've already run if you wanted a bit more general information, or indeed book up onto the ones coming up over the next couple of weeks. But thanks, everybody, for your time, and we'll catch you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks all.